Our case for the business model canvas is Southwest. Let's watch a quick clip.
This is a different kind of airline. One that invented low fares so everyone could fly. One that decides where to go next by putting your needs first. And knows people are its most powerful fuel. Some say we do things differently. We say, why would we do things any other way? Without a heart, it's just a machine.
Southwest are a great example. We're going to use them later with other tools as well. And the reason is, look at the data. I mean, isn't that impressive? $20 billion in revenue, 42 years of profit consecutively, which is pretty impressive. You wouldn't say, would you? And then 100 million customers a year, 100 million passengers. They're a top S&P 500 performer. And the reason we're using the Southwest example is because here's a company that started an entire industry. So let's look at the business model of Southwest and use the canvas to understand the magic that happened to that industry through this tool. One thing I'd like to warn you in advance, don't dwell into the details of, yeah, I wouldn't fly with them, oh, I think this or I think that. Don't be judgmental. Try to observe this with the glasses of a business designer and try to grasp the understanding of, that's an interesting lock-in. Hey, that's an interesting insight. We could use that. And I do encourage you to take notes as I go through this case. Why don't we start? Southwest. So the one thing that Southwest really started their innovation with was there wasn't any new technology. They used to be a regular airliner like everybody else. But at some point in time, they stopped asking the trivial question of an existing market, which means, how do we get another customer, another passenger that travels with United, for instance, to travel with us? They started asking a different question, a golden problem question. And that question was, how do we get people that go on buses that never board planes to start traveling using planes? And that big question, that big golden problem brought them the understanding that there was somebody in the margins of the market. We call these sidelined customer segments, ones that the airliners didn't think were worth troubling with. They didn't think they had a problem with solving. But Southwest thought, yeah, that's interesting enough. And for this, they actually built a whole new value proposition. Number one, we're going to give you bus in the air. So, hello bus, hello plane. You could actually travel the plane as if you're traveling a bus. And then just fly cheap. And at a later stage in their lifetime and the evolution of their business model, they also used one vacation stop shop. Now, here's an important point. Southwest did this, and by doing that, they started an entire industry we call today the low-cost airlining industry. Business model innovation in its purity. The channels of Southwest, for the most part, are digital. They're using southwest.com. What kind of insight could you take from this single note about Southwest? If you said customer acquisition is lower, if you said there's no need for agents, you're right. If you said they're going direct, you're absolutely on spot. Now, Southwest uses a very interesting revenue model, which we all know, and that's cheap flight tickets that are the base of the business model revenue and upgrades and add-ons on top. Now, they're so successful with this, if you look at their ticket, at their flying ticket, the cost of that could move anywhere around from $60 to $160. But if you look at the average bill, that's a totally different story. And at times, it goes beyond $220, which is a very interesting fact that shows that the revenue model actually works well. But other than investing in customer relations through their club, Rapid Rewards, and the fleet management, look at the next note that I'm going to put on the canvas. It tells a very interesting story, and I'm not sure you noticed it while you were traveling with them or with another low-cost airliner. Single model fleet. So when was the last time you flew with Southwest or somebody else like Ryanair or EasyJet? Did you notice that all of their fleets look the same and use the same plane model? If you haven't noticed that, maybe you start doing that from now on. Reason is, if you're a business designer, that's what you're looking for. Now, why would they use the same model for the entire fleet? You're right. Costs. So operational costs, purchasing costs. What about the crew and the training of that crew? So single fleet, a single model fleet, actually allows them to keep this model alive. In the Southwest case, we're talking about Boeing 737. But what if they added a 777 onto this fleet? Just a single plane. What would happen to the business model? Yes, it would collapse. So it's a fundamental key resource that's very unique to this kind of model. But this story goes beyond the key resource into the key activities. So maintaining a fleet, of course, they're an airliner. However, quick turnarounds is way different. Because if you're a bus in the air, you couldn't be a bus unless you had quick turnarounds. And the quickest they get is 15 minutes on the ground. The term connection flight or connecting flight doesn't exist in their business model. They really reinvented the entire operational activity of an airliner. So vacation deal creation, take a pick. For which value proposition do we need this key activity? Yes, you're right. For one vacation stop shop. So for this kind of activity, they needed to group and team up with hotels and rental car companies. So what you're seeing here as we move on and as we go through the tool is that it's not just a checklist of things, there is a connection. There is a string that's going through and connecting these blocks together. And as they are connected better, the business model becomes stronger and more robust and protected against competition. Airports, of course, that's no news for the airline industry. But something really interesting is happening over in this quarter, the A-list. So if you remember, we were talking about customer relationships being the place where you would develop traps and lock-ins in order to keep customers in. What is the A-list? If you haven't flown with the Southwest, you'd be surprised. They have something really unique.